we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. If they're all good, please. Welcome everyone to the Town of Pendleton for April planning meeting. We do have a full quorum tonight. Thanks for everybody coming. No April Fool's jokes, I don't think happened today that I know of.
No.
Good. Could have the board to review the minutes submitted and make additions or corrections. And I'll entertain motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as submitted. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed? Thank you. There's no old business, so we'll move to new business. Proposed amendments to the Unified Development Ordinance.
Favorite?
Couldn't go with that.
Huh?
We couldn't go with that.
I know I haven't done any this year, so this is your first round. And Denise is gonna be talking later about a couple of House bills that have been passed that might change a few of the things within our UDO as well as other codes that the town has. But she'll discuss those more. But our first, if you wanna pull up the April amendment, and you can pull these up on your.
I couldn't open that URL file.
I can't either.
Can't open it. It's not a spreadsheet. It's like a link to a spreadsheet.
Okay, well, we'll follow along on the big screen. All right, so,
We can't see.
okay, I'm gonna go print 7 of these. How's that sound?
Perfect.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Same thing to you.
Are you guys?
Leland, how you guys tonight?
Well, you just take on, you guys,
That's good. We like that.
make sure there's no kickback.
What are you doing in your retirement life now?
Me or him?
He's been retired 40 years. You started a couple years ago.
Well, doing things I haven't been able to do for a long time. I'm just having fun doing CNC, laser cutting, all kind of fun project,
Good for you.
Wood or metal?
metals and wood. Lecturing, doing some lectures.
Fine with that.
Those down.
Never said a word.
Should have grabbed the clock while I was.
You got the,
Nine.
you got the clock here.
It's
Nice pages.
Great airplane. Pull it up and make a big airplane. They try to say here, huh?
I just, I can read the book. So first, one we have is just a simple scrivener's error. Actually, we can go ahead and pull up a map. Sorry, if you want me to draw, but I can. Yeah. So, the area between 69 and our RC zoning, which is the bright pink. And then, our gateway does not include the downtown State Street area, remember? And then it starts again here, where the RC zone ends and goes, all the way down to the border of our property here. So in the description of the highway zone, there's 2 kinds. There's a 600-foot and a 200-foot. And the 200-foot is from basically the pink area here to the viaduct, and then the west side RC zoning to 69. The hatching is incorrect. It's showing a 600-foot hatch. It's just a simple GIS error, so we just need to make that smaller to reflect the correct size. And I can do that pretty easily with the GIS files that they should be provided.
Okay.
Okay, and you can read the description there where it talks about the 200 feet between State Street 69, west edge of RC zoning, and from eastern edge of RC zoning to 67. Okay, cool. We'll go back to big screen amendments here. Okay. Common space design, this was something that was brought up with the Prairie Falls subdivision to not only have the common space requirements that we have in subdivisions, but also to have some form of engagement in those common spaces. I put a lot of examples there, you know, kind of as feasible. We might have some areas that, you know, can't house a gazebo or a bench, but could house a sidewalk. So some form of engagement of those common spaces would be now required. And then as you guys go through your rezones and primary plats, you can help dictate, you know, kind of maybe where some of that is. Or if they present something and you want a little more, a little less, spread it out, whatever, you have the ability to do that.
Just real quick, is the word activation the appropriate word? That might be a planning word that I'm just not familiar with.
It was just the first one that came to mind, but I'm happy to put a different word in there if something feels better. You know, utilization, but I can use whatever.
Who's a good wordsmith?
No, I think that's common in
Is
planning
it
for
activation?
activation. This means it's not just space you can't get to or use for anything. So,
Not dormant.
I didn't know
Dormant,
it was
yeah.
a
Yeah, activated.
autocorrect on.
Sounds good.
Okay. Okay, 3 and 4 kind of pertain to some safety things within our subdivisions. So number 3, town manager Reski asked if we could start requiring subdivisions to put in signage as soon as their roads are drivable. Whether or not it's supposed to be only construction crews using it, or like in the case of Baker's Point, Bancroft, which is the large road that runs through there that connects 600 and State Route 38, is being used by people who live on 600. And they, Scott asked us to require, you know, there needs to be the stop signs in there, the speed limit signs, the no parking signs, even if it hasn't technically been turned over to the town yet, so that there can be some safety implements. But, you know, because sometimes the road is there for 6 months, 8 months before it actually is turned over to us. So, council, do you see any issue with that? Okay. So that was something, yeah, Reski had requested we put in there. Yeah. And then the next one is like a standard residential subdivision speed. So our roads for local roads are designed, and Kyle, you might know this a little better than I do as far as engineering, but it's, they're designed for 30-mile-an-hour. They're like designed for 30,
Geometrical. Yeah.
somewhere like that. But you can go down in miles per hour. So this was again something that Scott requested. We've been having a lot of subdivisions switch to 20-mile-an-hour. I think we're passing some soon, aren't we?
Yeah, commission members, we had a legal team meeting with the town team earlier today, so we anticipate a ordinance coming before the town. That and following the street study with A&F Engineering, that Scott Reski wants to recommend in various subdivisions 20-mile-an-hour speed limits. And then just have a catch-all where the speed limit sign is posted, even if it's not included specifically in the town code, that would still be required to follow the speed limits. So it's really a safety protocol, I think, that's been raised with various
Yeah.
town officials to get that in place.
So the ordinance will list specific streets then?
It will, yeah, right now we forget how many subdivisions were in the study. A lot,
At least 4.
more than 4, yeah.
Yeah.
At least.
No, at
7,
least
maybe
4.
more. Yeah, and so our recommendation is, if possible, to list the streets. But then one of the things that the discussion we have with A&F Engineering is to have a catch-all provision. For some reason, like historically, we don't have a street listed specifically in the town code, we want to at least make sure that there will be a catch-all that, citizens or individuals are required to follow the speed limit signs.
So if it's unposted, it's 30, right, within town, is that? All right,
I think it depends on if it's an old county road as well.
because
as
like,
opposed to like-
like 600 has no speed limit sign.
And that one might be like 40.
And you need to go like 5 on that.
Yeah.
road.
But my neighborhood.
I don't-
Posted at 25.
600 south.
Uh-huh.
The north side of Carrick Glen, that county road.
And I think some of why, Rescue was looking into this is because there's been a lot of residents calling in and wanting the lower speed limits posted in their neighborhoods. Either from not having it or they're posted at 25 or 30. So there's been kind of some of that as well, where we've been getting feedback from residents that they want a lower speed limit in the neighborhood. Excuse me, was there anything with speed studies was that what A&F?
That's
Okay, all right, because I know if you're going below a certain mile per hour, you have to have a speed study.
So their speed study, what did they capture with regards to the current residents and commuters through as some of the average speeds?
That's a good question. I haven't,
Yeah, I'm not aware if the extent, like, did they, some speed studies will have a recording of, how many trips, speeds and all that. I don't know if AMF went to that extent. We have a recommendation letter that I've seen with them. I was on a discussion with them before all this started. I think, again, as Hannah Rose indicated, this came about, I think mostly from some complaints from various citizens within the community and said, hey, we need to start being careful. We need to lower the speed limits in certain areas. And I don't want to speak for Scott, but I think the concern was if we're going to have all these different variants, why don't we try to make standard requirement here with most of the subdivisions and try to be as consistent as possible. So we'll list them, then have a default. Otherwise, we can check if not posted if there's a cross reference.
And the only reason I'm bringing that up is that as our traffic volume has increased and the number of through town commutes has continued to increase, a high percentage of the traffic is nowhere near adhering to 20 and 30 mile an hour speed limits today on cut through roads. And, I think it's wonderful that we're gonna do this and come up with a standardized across all subdivisions. But I still think the challenge is gonna be, how do you put any teeth into it and get any enforcement? Because I can tell you right now that over the last 5 years, the speeds just continue to increase in the higher density, the park area, coming in and out of downtown. And you're well aware on South Middleton Avenue, with speeds and the traffic. So I guess that would be the other question. If we're going to post it, what is Chief Barr going to do to really get people to accept safety and responsibility in the town of Pendleton?
a very good question.
We can post it, but if people aren't adhering to it, the calls are going to continue. And
Yeah, I mean, that might be a good conversation to have with God and maybe Chief Barr, if we're kind of looking to incorporate these things into our code. Maybe there's something else we can assist with or, if we're on that end, but,
They should push that even further. Now we've got 3 officers on every shift.
oh, they've hired more. Yeah. I think there's 14 officers now. 15?
Or more.
Mhm.
There's 3 on each shift.
So it might be a good conversation to just kind of have a.
What's the fine schedule look like? Has it been updated in the last 40 years? For
For
like
tickets?
speeding?
Oh, that's way out of my
I mean,
purview.
It's probably in the local ordinance, isn't it? Maybe that's be bumped up or something.
Maybe,
Discouraged.
yeah, I don't really know.
And then
I'm sure
more
it
people
does.
to have it. The sign is not in town code.
That's probably, yeah. Yeah, we can.
It's
I can-
infraction.
I'm just curious.
State.
And like, you know how NDOT does they have a special state statute for that automatic ticket they send people in construction zones? Is that something that's possible on a local level?
Is that like the cameras?
Like it sends it to wherever your plate's registered? Like if
These
you,
were illegal.
no, they passed a state statute, so like in 465, if you're
Uh-huh.
11 over, they'll mail you a ticket.
Oh,
Yeah, the construction zones.
They really targeted the construction zones the last couple of years.
yeah.
They've had them underneath, 96th Street. Southbound.
Mhm.
There's so much activity down there, trying to get them to slow down.
Then on 70, they did it out low.
Well, they're giving them 11 mile an hour and they're still running 85 through there. They're,
Try to go 10 over, you get ran over.
I mean, people are saying, I paid the ticket, I'm still going, like, they're $150 tickets on it.
No points or anything.
No points, just big fine.
Fine.
They're taking the odds of not getting a picture.
Well, I know there's lock cameras.
Yeah.
Maybe we could use those.
Okay.
But, yeah, so how do we feel about the 20 mile an hour kind of starting a boilerplate there, starting point for the subdivision?
Can a subdivision opt for a lower speed?
Like a 10 or 15? I don't know the process for that. Would they have to do their own speed study themselves? More than likely.
I didn't know if it was 20 or 20 or less.
Pretty slow.
I think anything less than 25, you have to have a speed study. So we did the speed study with
Okay.
them. And I'm sure we could also get a copy of it.
So like Broadway or Pearl or are those subdivisions?
Technically, from when
So
they
those,
it, but I
I
don't
mean,
know
like-
about retroactively.
would those be lowered to 20?
They'd be the concealed kind of enclosed subdivisions.
Okay.
So not our downtown area.
Okay.
Wide.
And both of those 3 and 4, I don't really know a good place to put those. I'm gonna review that with Denise in the code book. There's a few sections they could fit in well. But next month I'll let you know where I ended up. That are most appropriate. Okay, next, we have the right-of-way dedication process. I ran into this, just with, sometimes we don't know what's wrong with our code book till we have to use it for something. So we have a one-off right-of-way dedication for a site plan. And we want to add some language that speaks about the responsibility of who does the title work, who does all of this survey to dedicate the right-of-way. All of the kind of technical work is on the responsibility of the person developing the property, which seems pretty inherent. But I would like to shore that up in the book. So it's really easy with like residential subdivisions, it's platted, but when you have site plans, it can be a little bit different with right-of-way dedication. All right, any questions on that one? Okay. All right, timelines for site plan reviews. So I would like to add some language that site plan apps need to be completed as far as coming through us, all the other bodies they have to go through to get our approval, their application process, all of that within a year. I have some site plans I'm sitting on that are 2 years old now. Because there's been a lot of back and forth with engineers and developers, and sometimes they hire new staff and things like that. And I think it's better to be able to keep people going with, a code book within a year, so. That's just my opinion. We can do more, we can do less. I think I put 12 months here unless they're showing considerable reasonable progress. Planning administrator may extend the timeline in writing. I don't want these to sit in our offices for 2-3 years. No discussion with that. We'll go on to number 7. This was 7 and 8 actually were recommended, asked by our building inspectors. They're doing, inspections for our new neighborhood as well as some of the older plats or sections in like Hunsinger, Kirkland. And they think it would be a good requirement to have the sod placed all the way to the back corner of the house as opposed to the front corner. Because sometimes the seeding and things like that in between the houses doesn't grow as well. It looks kind of cruddy. So they recommended, and they talked to a super or two out there and, you know, they said that would be a good idea to do as well. It helps keep the lot looking nicer and it tends to be a little more, takes the wear and tear a little better than grass seed.
So as I read this, there is a rural residential lot that may be multiple acres. And someone builds on it, we're going to require them to sod the large front yards if they have opted for that versus traditional planting. It says builders,
Yeah,
developers slash builders.
yeah, so residential lots in the back corner of the primary structure.
But does that section only pertain to major subdivisions?
So I think it'd be multiple side.
Like if you have a large lot with a 300 or 400 foot front yard,
Yeah, I don't think you'd probably rip it up though, like when you're going to build a house.
I mean, if it's a cornfield.
Good point.
I've,
So, yeah, we can put it just for certain types, like the major residential, we can do certain zone.
Or subdivisions.
Subdivision.
Yeah, major residential subdivisions only. Or we can even look at it further if you only want certain zoning districts to have to do that, so you could exclude rural res or ag zones, things, because you can build houses in some of those as well. But I think the major residential subdivision would be a good place to start with that. 'Cause that's what we see
With the
mostly.
smaller lots, I think it's very practical.
Right.
But if you have people that are getting the 5 or 10 acre lots, putting the structures on the back.
Yeah.
Uh,
And that probably would never be the case of a major residential subdivision. You're
No.
probably not gonna get someone who wants to do 5-10 acre lots with large houses. So I could change this to require developers for major residential subdivisions. Or I think, let's see, what's our other? We have a traditional. We have a minor as well. I'm missing, and we have RC. We have conservation, any of our large subdivision styles, I guess I could say. So that would be all of the styles in chapter 5 types.
That would include RC.
It would. Yes. So I can change that to include. It would include the 5 subdivision types that we have: major, minor, traditional, RC, and conservation.
In a residential of this,
Mhm.
what about boulders, tree stumps? Cut down trees. Baker's Point has a pile of stuff that's
Mhm.
been there for a year now.
Mhm.
That's still in the back lots that hasn't been moved.
Is it refuse from the site, you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's, stuff that they've pulled up on the ground and it just left piled. But
I imagine the rocks will be utilized throughout the subdivision when they finish.
Use them in landscaping.
They're starting to put the East Road in now.
They are, yes.
That's what they did with Carrot Lynn. They used
Mm-hmm.
some drugs, cause I was watching them, so I wanted some of them.
So is that what you're trying to inquire, is if they can reuse some of those rocks in the landscaping
I
or?
think if we're gonna talk about sod and those kind of things, that whatever they're gonna do with it,
Mhm.
do they just leave it in a pile? To let it look terrible until they get around to moving it?
Typically, yeah, they do have to make sure if it's becoming a stormwater runoff issue, they would have to put like a tarp type thing on top of it, like if it's clogging drains and things like that, but typically construction piles, as long as they're not causing a storm issue or some sort of safety issue. If you have a lot of like dry brush and it's starting to heat up, we don't want it to cause a fire, but most of those things in construction zones are permissible.
And sometimes they wait anyway until they're
Yeah.
grading. They do some final grading and that's when they do.
Yeah, they'll pull from it sometimes.
And with
We'll work out Baker's Point to go
There's
down sidewise.
quite a bit, yeah. Yeah, they're putting the East Road in now, which is Northrop, but they'll have a whole other section. They'll have another road and then their executive private drive.
Well, they usually cover the drains too.
Yeah, so Cookie is out there, I mean, they're out there doing inspections on houses that they have in either mechanical or final. So they're really good about checking to make sure they have all their storm implements in place so that those drains are being clogged by debris.
You know, where they mulch up all the trees,
Mhm.
that's where it's all piled up. It's in those back big lots.
Yeah,
They haven't
and
developed yet.
like where the executive homes are, yeah, they do have a lot of refuse out there, but I do imagine they'll probably try to use some of it, but the rest of it might be shipped offsite at some point. Cause they'll have to do a lot of grading for that executive section. So, but I'll have, Brett and Cookie go take a look at it just to make sure again, they're violating any of our stormwater ordinances with that, you know, we definitely don't want muck burning off of it as much as possible. Okay. So for number 7, I'll go ahead and add our subdivision types to that for that requirement. Okay, and then last one is about fences. So in our gateway overlay, we require the fence stringers to be located facing interior with the nice finished side facing out. Our gateway, however, doesn't pertain to residential. This was something that I've heard just over the years, we might want to put in our code book. We've never had an issue necessarily with folks putting the stringers on the outside, but I know that always looks a little bit better from the street to not have the stringers on the outside.
I thought that was in the codes because there was an enforcement of that probably 10 or 12 years ago.
On my code book.
So like, so if your neighbor puts a fence in on their property line, they're gonna face the nice side out, and then you put a fence right up next to it, and you're gonna face the nice side out, so nobody gets to look at the good side of the fence.
But if they're up against each other, nobody sees it anyway.
But if you face the nice side into your yard,
Yeah.
Both the nice finished sides are.
It probably could work in side yards a lot better if both neighbors
yeah,
have
so I'm
it.
saying like in a backyard, you would want, I mean, it doesn't help anybody to face the good side, like, face to face.
Mhm.
I understand what you see from the street.
Here for, you tell me what you want me to do, but it was something that came up. I know I've heard a few times from a few people
Unless we were
about that,
to
but
exposed or something.
Well, a lot of them leave 3 feet between the fences, like a mow down through there.
don't some folks
Still
also
face the good
use
side
like
out.
their neighbor's fence as a, I mean, if they're nice neighbors to each other,
Share.
they'll share the fence line
Just put up one.
and put up one.
I
That's
guess,
up to you
I
guys.
guess this is a safe way to make sure the portion you see from the street looks good.
I'd leave that up to them, whether they wanted to negotiate that.
As far as sharing,
Like,
yeah, we
case
wouldn't
by
get
case.
involved in that necessarily, but this would be for whatever fence permit they apply for. So whether they're sharing a wall with their neighbor or they're building their own.
It's the one where they don't apply for permit. Then we have those ones that cause the trouble.
We have an 8-foot in my neighborhood. You're supposed to come to the BZA to get that approved.
Sorry, yeah.
What? Okay, well, let's chat offline about that. But any thoughts on this? I mean, I know, again, we have this in our gateway overlay for, any sort of commercial style fencing, that the gateway would pertain to, having those stringers face interior. But up to you guys.
I'd say leave it the way it is, let them come ask for a variance.
You could put or as the term, you could,
They wouldn't. Oh, okay, so add this to the language and then they could come in for variance to turn the stringers out.
or you could say as determined by the administrator. That way you can make the call,
Sure, is that okay with you?
like on a case by case, whatever makes the most sense. We don't want a variance for every.
Yeah. Okay, I'll add that.
Just some way to have some flexibility, like what makes the most.
So I mean, I didn't know we had to have a variance, and I'll send it. Yeah, it's varying from the video.
I will I'll add that language in there.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments on that one or any of the others we've gone over? Any thoughts come to mind, anything like that? Anything you'd like me to look into in our code book? Anything you've been seeing or noticing, or, we might need to shore up anything like that? We haven't done really any amendments, like major amendments, since last October-ish. The only one we did add was the gateway overlay, the additional on 700. So I'll update the map with both the Scrivener's error and that, but anything else you could think of? Going pretty good. I think we've got it in a good spot. It only took us 4 years, but we got there. So, okay, all right. Well, that is all I have.
You and Lee, have any quick comments?
Oh, yeah.
It's money's worth. Gotcha. Get it outlined stuff.
All right, I'll turn it over to Denise. She is gonna walk
We need to
you
vote on this,
through.
Rob.
Are you gonna come back with some of these or which ones?
Well, no, looks like we got through all of them, so we'll go through.
3 and 4, your weight, you have question marks there.
Oh, that's just the page number. There's a few sections where those could go. That I wanted to just chat through with Denise after the meeting, or tomorrow, not after the meeting. Cause
Just wait, Rob.
do you want us to wait on those till we have a page number?
I think maybe if we can work in with Scott, because we're gonna for sure go, or he's planning on going with the speed limit ordinance
Mhm.
next week.
Yeah, so none of these would go to April Town Council, they'd go to May anyways. So if there's a better page number based on once you guys go through that he thinks, we can do that too. So yeah, we can vote on these. I have the recommendations and then we'll just get an ordinance together for May.
All right.
All right, yes, thank you, Tim.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve the UDO amendments, corrections and additions as recorded tonight. Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you. All those in favor of the UDO corrections and additions as recorded tonight, please say aye. Those approved or those disapproved? Thank you. Okay, Denise, General Assembly.
Off of what this board does so well, reviewing the standards for development and keeping up, with our development in the area and seeing the needs for amendments. I kind of have the unfortunate, position to share with you some changes that are pretty significant, that was determined and established here at the 2026 legislation session. It was a short session. It wrapped up the end of February. The governor signed these bills in, I think it was the 4th of March. There was, I think, maybe around 80 some bills altogether that were passed. But I wanted to share with you and go over because it's going to kind of guide our processes and some of our decisions and maybe consideration for amendments and updates to our Unified Development Ordinance over the course of the next 9 months here. So based on the decisions and the legislation that has been established. So for tonight, and I will send out this spreadsheet here. I'm going to kind of go back over fine tooth comb here to make sure that there's no misspellings, as well as maybe some other inputs that I'd like to share as far as just kind of the forecast and kind of what our current standards are and identifying maybe some possible updates or definition additions into the UDO that are in sync with legislation and so forth. So I'll continue to work on this over the course of the next few months, but just wanted to give you kind of a heads up here. These here, there's 4 legislation bills. Those are 3 of those are House enrolled acts, and then 1 of them is a Senate enrolled act. And those 4 are relative to the planning and zoning. So that is going to impact the decisions, policies, procedures, standards, and development that this board, as well as the Board of Zoning Appeals, then put to practice, over time. So just kind of want to go through these. I'm not going to hit every single one at your leisure. Feel free to go over, but if you have any questions too at the end, be more than happy to answer as best as I can. We have been engaged with AIM as well as APA reps to try to best understand the implications that these bills are setting forth for the state of Indiana. But also too, we're going to be meeting regionally with the town of Ingalls, the town of LaPel, and try to create a good workshop for Hannah Rose and myself and the planning directors, town managers in our area to make sure that we are ready and prepared for what we have as duties that we're going to have to make sure that we comply with. So we'll kind of hit on some of those here in a little bit. So the House Enrolled Act 1161, that particular bill, just parts of it that were kind of dissected out just for your relevance here is the Plan Commission and Board of Zoning Appeal appointments. So currently or in the past, and so a lot of this bill, it was determined to be an emergency bill. Emergency Act. So that means that most of the dates are effective July 1 of 2026. Some of those have some effective dates that you'll see of June 30th, 2026, that all of these guidelines have to go and be set in place. And then some of them a little bit farther out. We have about till the end of the year, the end of December, to be able to get these things up and going. But with this particular bill, the way that appointments are or have been for years is that you serve at the pleasure of those either individuals or bodies that appoint you. So they wanted to kind of step in and have a little bit of tighter control as far as making sure that the goals and the visions of the town leadership or the city's leadership are then passed through and kind of ensured that they are followed through our board and commission. So for your two boards, the way that it is set is that the individual, the member of the board, serve at the pleasure of the community on that board, so long as the individual who appointed them, so if it was a town council president appointment or a town council body, so the entire body, if the composition of that body is still in force and still remains holding that role or that office, then you then would serve at the pleasure. However, if, say, town council president who had appointed you steps out, or one of the 5 town council members, if you were a town council body appointment, if they then were to change and 1 or 2 stepped off, then it is for cause that you would then be removed. The good thing is that our rules for Plan Commission and BZA does not establish any type of controls or guidance for removal from the boards. So we don't have to quickly go in and adjust our rules, but they are suggesting that we go ahead and we kind of update just to make sure that our language is consistent with legislation. Any questions on that one? The second one is House Enrolled Act 1210. That is regarding the Department of Local Government Finance. Here too, you'll see who the author was, the co-author, who was sponsored in the other House or Senate. But this particular one, we've got some clarification that we're waiting to come through. But this one established that the unit cannot adopt or enforce regulation to prohibit or restrict a private property owner from renting their property. So I know that we've talked about this before in the past. Carmel Fishers have enacted that rental cap. That is no longer permissible by legislation. So that is something that if they were established prior to this year, then they have until 2028 to become in compliance with the legislation. We do not have that in place. We will not, until legislation change, we will not be able to pursue that ordinance to be able to put a rental cap. But it also puts limits as far as those short-term rentals. So those would be short-term rentals that would be non-commercial, non-business related. So there's a little bit of gray area on that. We're waiting for a little bit more clarification, but you'll see outlined as far as, I don't know if you can zoom in on that or not, but you'll see as far as our zoning classifications, which ones allow short-term rental for conditional use and then permitted use. But the way that we're reading is that we're not going to be able to prohibit someone to be able to have short-term rental on their property as a, and allow it, permitted use, 100%. Unless it is proven that there is overnight, there's breakfast, there is a business use to that unit. So again, we'll come back as we get a little bit more information, and we'll keep you updated as that develops. The third one is the, oh,
So
yes.
can we still require the registry?
So that is one of my questions, is if we can just at least keep note of it, as long as we're not prohibiting them to exercise that right. I don't believe so, but I do want to get that confirmed. So, yes, that's a very good point.
And if it becomes a nuisance, they can still operate. You can't. Or noise or.
No, that all unsightly noise, all that still applies. Building code still applies. It's just that we would not be able to have a land use prohibit for exercising that as a short-term rental, as long as it is for private, personal rental uses.
So let me get a legal clarification here. Private property can be owned by an individual. Does it also apply to LLCs and corporate?
That is correct. At this point, there is no differentiation on that. As long as it is owned, it doesn't matter if it's a local owner or if it is a owner occupied site or a non-owner occupied site or someone that lives outside of the state.
This just for short-term rental description.
This is for long-term and short-term, but it
That's
gives a
what
little
this-
bit more clear, yes.
That's where the stink's coming, because these investors and corporations are buying up all these properties in these subdivisions.
Mhm.
Summer Lake's almost a third rentals now.
Believe the
Because
HOA.
they're buying the repos that are just quick as they can get on the market.
Yeah.
And from California to New York, these guys just, thousands of them.
Well, I think
Yeah, they're-
Baker's had an addition as soon as the planning commission approved it. The corporation bought the entire addition now.
Well, there's actually families buying whole streets.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely across, the state, sure, in larger
So
cities
even with the long-term corporate purchaser, we can't limit that.
it's a blanket prohibition. Yes.
Now, can the HOA set a percentage? Like,
Uh,
like not government enforced, but the HOA established there could say, we only want 10%. Is that also prohibited? Since
I
they're
did not
private
find
people?
that anywhere in the bill. Yeah,
I don't
it's
think
just
the
more for a
HOA
local unit
Power to do
of
that.
government. I'm sorry?
I don't think the HOA would have enough power to do that.
I mean, they could, couldn't they, like in their covenants? I mean, they'd have to, right? We
Enforce.
can't, enforce it. We can't say, yeah, you have.
We knew this was gonna happen because these guys have too much money.
Right.
And that HOA or whatever's not gonna fight these guys. They can't, these guys have millions, they know that.
I know there are HOAs that are out there doing it.
Okay,
I get this, it's something we want to
Yeah.
certainly look into it. I mean, I know specifically a private lake, they prevent any, verbos or Airbnbs. Any sort of,
Each was fighting that, Brad.
But they have that ability to do that.
they do it in that sense, being from the private development. I'm not aware of it if it's been challenged.
I think
Yes, we can look into it.
I think they've all gotten scared,
I'm sure,
Yeah.
I'm sure,
getting sued.
yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Because I know in Michigan up there, where I'm at, they went from rentals was okay, then you had to have the permit, register. Then they went to no rentals, they got mad. Then they went to only so many, they're like, how can you determine if it's 50 or 5? And now they don't know what to do, they're scared to death. They're gonna get sued. They can bankrupt that little town.
And that's why I think that, a lot of towns and cities were kind of watching to see kind of how it played out with the larger
There's
cities.
too much money behind these guys.
When it really came from an HOA perspective, that it becomes too heavily rented. The owners aren't showing up to HOA meetings and then they can't vote anything. However, there was the legislation specific to HOAs this session as well. And that changed some language on, the renters, and I don't know it verbatim, but I think it did clear that issue up from what I understand. I don't know if it's on this list or not, but.
Probably, but.
Yeah, that might have been in,
The maintenance and the upkeep is horrible. That's the problem.
Sure.
You live in a subdivision, you got 20 houses in there, they don't care. Now your property's going to, value. They live in California, they don't care about collecting rent anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a big issue.
yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see, how things progress and, we've got, not saying it's gonna happen here, but we've got Baker's Point that they are building, and they are at a rate of probably, 1 to 4. They have about 16 homes there and about 4 of them have been purchased. Yeah, so that does kind of create that vulnerability, for. Purchased by individuals have been purchased, but yet they're developing and they're building at a rate, that, it does open that opportunity.
So when a HOA votes on something, it's majority.
They
That's
have to
what-
have a percentage, and then when some of these additions have too many rentals.
So ask about financial.
They don't have a quorum.
But you just need a class A and a class B owner in it. I think you get more votes.
Well, there was legislation this session that clarified and changed some HOA.
There's online stuff.
And I think that is with the housing matters, but
Push the balls there.
Yeah,
I don't think we'll get any better. I think they'll just open it up. So it'll be a big issue.
yeah, the housing, development is definitely one of their big priorities and focuses, and it shows, in their outcomes and their deliverables for sure, yeah. Okay. Anyone else have anything on that, too? And we'll definitely will.
Is there a lobby organization that represents the interest of the towns in aggregate?
Yes, we do have AIM, and they did let me put that too as well. I'll send you their slideshow. We had sat in on a legislative recap, but they did explain, that they go and they lobby, they spoke in opposition for hours of testimony, there at the State House. So yes, they do a lot of, even side conversations, even conversations they indicated that they're going to continue to have between now and next year's legislation session to be able to kind of, maybe make some corrections, make some movement, in the other direction.
So are short-term rentals in town increasing?
Or they say, are they increasing? No, we're about 8, maybe? 8, 9 short
one is
term?
no longer,
Okay,
so I think it's only 7.
No,
Someone's doing it under the radar, or,
but you check like Airbnb and.
But Brad, to kind of expand on that, I listened that day to HEA 1001, and then I think maybe SCA, there were several, because it was many hours, and AIM spoke against these, as well as all of the surrounding mayors. So you had Carmel Smear, she spoke,
Scott Fadness.
Sadness spoke, Westfield, I remember, Chris up in Westfield spoke. Lots of people, and then not even just the donut of Indianapolis, I'll say the more developed, sophisticated towns. You had towns from northern Indiana. You had small down in Vevay, that area.
Oh, Vivi.
Yeah, Vevay.
So
the smoke, and they were all against it.
they all have
Um,
less money than investors.
Yeah, and they all made very formative
Valid points,
arguments. I was impressed, but there were some changes made based off of that. It just.
Yeah.
Everything was in the guise of affordability.
Yeah.
You can argue that it was a guise of affordability
Yeah.
for some of these things to get them passed. And that's the key word in this legislative session. Let's pass the things that are making things more affordable.
That was embedded in several different
Yes,
bills, that's for sure.
but I will say that they really did fight, against this.
And there was a lot of redactions. There was a lot of things that were removed, especially the House Bill 1001. The first original version of that would have probably wiped out half of our UDO. I mean, it was really, really scary. And even our ability to be able to enforce impact fees or development fees. I mean, it was down to, I think there was a provision that was 8% of the cost of construction was the max. Well, see, would have been 8,000 of, say, a $400,000 home. That we would have been able to even charge for all fees for that development. So yeah, so that would have cut our road funding and other fundings in half.
There were people lobbying for this too, on that flip side. Yeah, the usual.
Yeah, I didn't put that in there. I probably should have went and notated the yays and the nays, but there might have been, I would say 90% was in favor of these for most of them, 80 to 90%. So yeah, okay. The next one is the Senate Enrolled Act 179. That was regarding the shooting range and the retail sporting goods establishments. And so what this establishes is that the indoor shooting range must be permitted by right in any commercial, industrial, or agricultural properties. So that is something that we're going to have to amend our UDO here at some point this year to allow that. It is with conditions, that they have to comply with. But right now, we just have our, as far as what is allowed, I've got it outlined here on your sheet. But we've got neighborhood business, general business. There's variations, downtown business from small, medium, and large, to where some of them are allowed on a permitted use, not very many, some on a conditional use. And then also as specifically a indoor shooting range is allowed in heavy business. The other ways in which in our definitions at the end of our UDO, it allows a shooting range to be included in as a general retail. So that is one thing that we may, we're gonna have to take a look at and make sure that we comply. Then the other is the
A donor must have wanted to put in a shooting range.
Yes, 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 exactly. Yeah, yep, that's for sure. Retail sporting goods store also must be permitted by right in all commercial zones. So all commercial zones. The only exception for these two is that if it's a mixed use development that has residential. So that doesn't have to be allowed there. But yes, so that would have to be updated as well. And as far as any existing indoor shooting range, which we don't have any in our jurisdiction that we're aware of. But if they were to want to expand that use, we would not be able to treat that as a non-conformity. We would have to allow them to be able to expand based on, that right. We would not be able to deny that, delay, or even put in a condition for that approval. Anyone have any questions on that, Bill? Yep. So that's just one that we're just gonna have to kind of do some cleanup here. And these are things that we have to have established before the end of 26, when that time frame is. Okay. Then, but it's,
We're gonna have to approve from that.
yes, yeah, we'll work on that and work through our document to identify all the areas that we need to change to be in compliance. Yes. So that'll come. We don't have to have our changes done until the end of 26. But this here is in effect July 1 of 2026. So that's going to our assessment, the petitions that come in, it's basically going to kind of null and void our ordinance until we get it in line. Okay, so then for the big one, this is the House Enrolled Act 1001. This is regarding housing matters. And so as you see, there are 25 sections within this bill. This is the one that I was just speaking about. And I know that Jenny had listened in on this. It was very extensive to start. There was some parts of it that allowed on the zoning ordinance that were going to be enforced and that we would have to comply with unless we took action to opt out. All those sections were eliminated. Those sections were the ones that we would have lost a lot of the standards within our development, UDO and zoning ordinance. Things like setbacks and heights and so forth. So what they did to kind of accommodate the wishes to be able to have reduction in standards, that they call legal restrictions. They are, as we've mentioned, their focus is that they want to increase housing development and they want to be able to make development more affordable. So that was kind of the drive behind what came out. But fortunately, it did come out a lot less intense and drastic, than originally presented. So I just kind of want to hit some of these main areas. Annual planning department reporting. So we've got things that we're going to be working with and learning from Indiana Housing Community Development Authority. They're going to be working, putting together a template for us, electronic process for us before the end of the year that we're going to have to compile a lot of data for them. So that is kind of the number of residential housing units approved, the number that were proposed, the number that were denied. We have to also list the number of units that were lost to demolition. Also, number of units that were converted to non-residential uses. Also, number of residential houses lost to demolition, conversion to a non-residential use, or combining some units, and then looking at the net new residential housing units. So that is derived from taking new constructed homes, so new construction, minus homes that are demo. So that then gives us our net gain for our community. Number of units that are entitled, units that are platted, number of units that are permitted, and number of certificate of occupancies that are issued in the year. And then also we have to let them know how many days our planning department has spent in reviewing and assessing these permits. So as you can see, and then if there's any discrepancies in there, we need to explain why. So that is kind of part one. And you'll see even as I go to the second section here of that legislation, we have to give a comparison between 2025 and 2026, and we'll continue that as time goes on. We need to provide the number of units and breakdown in type, single family, two family, multifamily, the median income for a jurisdiction. So that is something that we're going to have to look at what sources are reliable and what sources we need to obtain to base our data collection on. Also, of the homes that are constructed, which meets 80% of the median income, which fall in 119 of the median income, and then 120% of the median income. So just looking at the ranges or wanting to get an idea of the cost of those homes that we have in our community. How many new single family units?
Just a quick clarification.
Yes.
Home prices at 120% of median income?
Yes, so
Median income's like 60 grand.
I think it's about 80,000 right now for our community.
It's gonna be like 500%.
So we're looking at, we're looking at then the total of, units, as far as their sell price. And then taking it at then, if I'm understanding this correct, 80% then of falling into determining, what population income level are we serving? Are we serving 80% of the median? Are we then providing homes? They're just looking to make sure that we are providing homes for all levels of diverse incomes. Is what they're-
Mathematics in this do not make sense to me.
Well, they're gonna come in and tell us what to build, so it's not happening.
But I'm saying, it was already brought up, you cannot construct
Can't build a
a
house.
minimum standard home based upon state guidelines for minimum square footage at that 80% of the median income level.
I think
I don't have
that,
a spreadsheet in front of me.
I get that. I
I'm
think
just
the
saying,
whole intent is,
that's 80% of 80% of an $80,000 median income, which I would guess is pretty close, is $64,000.
can't buy the lumber package for that.
One of
So-
the things
Yeah,
I don't know specifically on this bill, but these numbers tend to resemble some of the statistics that are looked at for affordable housing
Yes,
units.
yeah.
So it's units, it's not necessarily single family home. I don't know.
Yeah,
if
yeah,
that's
you're
what
right.
it's addressing,
Yes,
but it
yeah.
may be that.
all combination of all housing types. That is correct.
I think their whole intent is the development comes to town, we say you gotta put on cement siding, gold clad windows, gold roofs, gold doorknobs. They're tired of that.
Yeah,
They
Yeah.
want vinyl here, vinyl there. That's, they want. We don't have any control.
that is a later section in
And it's
this
gonna be
bill.
Horrible.
The early construction in the Ingalls area and the county areas, what were the lowest home prices there? Where they were non-standard,
Like some lake area.
I was gonna,
They're all in the threes.
Yeah,
I don't
just
see
in inflation.
any-
Yeah, I don't even know if any of the new constructions now are under 300.
There's
Yeah.
no less there.
Yeah.
I don't think Baker's Point's got much under 4.
390 is the lowest.
It's right.
So affordable housing had nothing to do with property taxes. All about
So-
construction costs.
But
I guess the
Not
thing I
yet.
would ask is a clarification on the metrics and the measurements. Because
well, she didn't do the math, she just.
Yeah.
I
We're
just,
still all waiting for clarification of exactly how this is supposed to be calculated. And, how it's gonna be reported, how it's going to be even identified. How are we even going to know then what the incomes of those home buyers are? I mean, there's a lot of question that we all have that we're gonna have to.
And Ames
Figure that
doing
out.
some, it's gonna be.
They're gonna
more
be
people
doing
with
some
trying to get
investigation and trying to
construction.
figure this out, and then Indiana, yeah.
So it's
How-
really a housing inventory initially. There's no teeth in this. Not really, cause it's.
So
not
I-
yet.
Yes, I would, hopefully, it's not phase one, step one of the process, but in what I'm seeing, it's kind of in movement of being able to see that if what they have established in legislation has been effective enough to be able to keep the cost of homes down and to be able to show that there is an increase in housing development.
Well, what they.
And then if not, then they may then come back in the next year or two. And then instead of being explore and assess, it then may incorporate some of those legal restrictions that they want us to eliminate, and make illegal.
They want those requirements down
Yes.
to lower the cost of the house for them. They're gonna sell that house lower than market. Is that,
Yeah.
Because again, economics 101, supply and demand.
because Gary Glenn started out at 250 and they ended up almost at 4. And they sold every one of them.
Cedar was like the low two.
I mean, Indiana had an increase in at least 45,000 people first ever since, the state became a state. We've not had an increase.
Yeah.
And it's supply and demand. Everyone wants to move here. So guess what? Costs go up.
Sure.
So
Voters follow that stuff, but if they're selling them at 4, they're all selling and I keep them at 4.
Yeah.
the materials didn't change.
That's what they're after. They
Yeah.
want the materials to go down,
That's so
they make more money.
I also might recommend a certain percentage at a certain rate for development, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there isn't a lot of diversity when they hit these subdivisions.
Yes.
And I would be supportive of something like that, depending on what it would look like.
Yeah,
Not inferior product and make people with different lifestyles within
Yeah.
the same development, but maybe
Sure.
offer different ranges and, that's how towns used to be built, right?
Yeah.
And maybe some of that could make sense.
yeah, more variety.
Places that do that very well, and it doesn't look any different, doesn't
Right.
feel any different, but some of them are either
Especially when you're looking at a unit.
price control.
Yeah.
You know, which they were referencing is you could have some type of smaller condo square footage or whatever. I don't know exactly how it would look, but I think that makes sense then, a cookie cutter, much more sense than what we're seeing that's coming up here. Not like, the cost of 400,000 to pay for these houses that they're building, because it doesn't.
Yeah, and I think your point is definitely that moving in the direction of more diverse housing stock, can help, with the cost of the unit to go down. Brad, too, I wanted to maybe, if I read this here, how many new single-family dwelling units had a sell price less than 80% of the median income? How many then fell between the 81% to the 119, and then what fell then 120 and above? So that's kind of what they're looking at for both single family and 2-family homes. Yeah. So yes, so we'll continue to learn more about this as we go.
My thought, Denise, and I don't know what meetings you're in, if you attend any things, it's just the big piece that's left out. You're asked to have this matrix and gathering of data and being transparent, all in the guise of affordability. But in the builder's case, they don't have to be transparent, and I would push back because this was builder push. I listened to them. So they need to start disclosing profit margins as well because of supply and demand. And so if one side's gotta be transparent, the other does, if not, it's
Yeah.
unbalanced.
Yes, which was very interesting is that the original bill had it to where the maximum fees that the planning department can collect on a new build or construction was then capped at, I'm trying to think here, the percentage here, we've got 8,000. Let's see here. 20%, I say 2%, right? 2% of 4,000 is 8,000, right? I say, make sure I'm doing my math right. Yeah, so 2% of 400,000 is 8,000, is that right? Yes, so our fee would have been capped at 400,000. So then it wasn't real clear as far as, is it the cost of construction? Is it, say that, is that?
You just said it
You
back.
said that.
Okay, okay, there's that. So
Yeah.
2% of 400,000 is 8,000. Right?
So that's
Okay, so that's what I meant to say,
Yeah.
sorry, okay. So, okay, thank you. So that was where we were gonna be capped. It was gonna be based on the cost of construction, which I found it very interesting that I thought, well, who's gonna reveal the cost of construction? Well, if they go by the sell price, then, then that allows us to collect, more. But if they disclose the cost of the construction to be able to keep their fee down, that then shows what their profit margin is. And I can't say for sure, but my hunch is that might have been a realization as they went through and realized that that was something that they did not want to continue. So, but yeah, so very good point. Okay, so then, for this, we have to report this here by the end of the year. So we'll learn about that process. And then we'll have to continue that year by year as well. So we'll get some more clarification as, hopefully here in the next few months. We've decided that we don't want to be too quick to make amendments to the UDO. Just because we want to be able to make sure that we had this all vet out and we know exactly, what is expected of us. IDEM stormwater reviews, there's some requirements they felt like that was too stringent. They're asking them to assess their stormwater quality manual. And then that will kind of trickle down to us as far as what we can allow and not allow. So there's some bank ratio requirements that they're looking at, and then also not to be required to have both a 10-foot maintenance ledge and a 10-foot safety ledge. So some communities do require both of them. They're requiring them to just require just one or the other. Okay. Let's see here. The next section kind of talks about the compensatory storage. That's basically when you're filling in land for floodplain areas. There is a requirement now that it can only be no greater than 3-to-1 ratio on that. The next one here is just some features in homes, whether they're homes or commercial, the arc fault circuit interpreter, and then also that emergency responder for commercial developments. Those cannot be no longer required for install for a new construction. Then there is some effectiveness dates, publication requirements, and so forth when we have an ordinance. So when we have an ordinance or a resolution and order that is adopted by this body or by town council, there is a notification requirement. There's publication requirements as well, especially when there is a fee associated with a violation on that. We have to do kind of a 2-week consecutive notification for that. And then also part of that section is that any increase in building permit fees also have to be subject to a notification in the local newspaper. Then it kind of went into some accessory dwelling units. They just did some definitions. Jenny, I will look into section 16. That is where they define the HOA. So I'll see if that is where they added in pieces for more clarification that we can have some guidance on that. So I'll mark that
So
though.
our UDO has an 800 square foot cap, right?
Yes,
Maximum.
For ADU.
yes.
So that has to go up to 1,000.
The way that I read it, and I'm going to ask clarification on that, is that it doesn't state that that is the standard. It's just stating that in the definition that it has to be self-contained living unit. It's got the restroom, it's got the kitchen, it's got all those amenities that need for dwelling habitants. But then it just states here that it's not to exceed the lesser of 75% of the interior ground floor, or then the max of 1,000. So the way I interpret it is that if we're less than that, we're compliant with it. It's just that it can't, by definition, exceed more than 1,000 square feet. So I think we're okay, but I will confirm that. The others, as far as planning department fees, so after the end of this year, we cannot increase any of our building permit fees for 5 years. So yes, so we've got to do a deep dive in assessing that this year, making sure that they are, complimentary of our area and so forth, and make sure that if there's any of our fees, that could be our zoning fees, our rezone, our variance fees, platting fees, all the way up to our building permit fees for remodels, for even as detailed as fence permit, roofs, all that kind of stuff. So we want to make sure that we assess that this year. And then also, there was something that's new that will start in 2027. Right now, the planning department, all of our fees, now not impact fees, not system development fees, not electric and water, cap connection fees. Those do not go into the general fund, but all of our building permit, and filing permit, application fees go into the general fund. Starting in 27, we're going to create then our own planning department fund, and they have to stay in there, and it cannot be, it has to be non-reverting. So they stay in there until they're utilized. So I'm assuming that we're going to have a reporting on that as well. They'll see that through DLGF and our State Board of Accounts as well. So it will be only for planning department purposes. It could be salaries, it could be, yeah, anything from legal, education, it could be office supplies, consulting fees, planning fees that are relative to our planning, development.
I'm studying.
Yeah, if we did like another gateway overlay, we could say for.
Yes, yep, like our arts and culture plan that can come out of there, as well as things like our urban forestry program, our placemaking, all those type of things that I envision that will be line items, through appropriations on that. Okay, the next big section is, and I apologize, we'll pick this up here. They tightened up on the 1109 statute. So the 1109 statute is basically what it means is that when a developer comes in and they invest into a property, they've got not only their research, their homework, they've got their engineers that have engineered the site. They've explored as far as environmental. I mean, there's a lot of different costs a part of even just kind of getting to the rezone or the platting stages and so forth, or site development phases and projects. The way that statute works is that when the application is submitted, then what standards apply at that time is what then kind of lives with the land, or it kind of runs with the duration of that project. So this has been a provision that's been in place already for some time, but they just kind of shored up some of the clarifications, making sure that it, so if Baker's Point filed their primary plat and they start developing the secondary plat, from the filing of their primary plat, then whatever standards were in place with the Unified Development Ordinance, certain fees that were in place at that time will run until that development is complete, until it's fully built out. It at least a minimum of 3 years, a maximum of 10 years. But as long as they progress throughout that 3 to 10 year period with reasonable progress, then those standards stay in place. That is a provision that's been around for a while. But what they did is that then they made this requirement that Hannah Rose and our team is going to have to really solidify our development processes, because there are target dates and benchmarks that they set. So when a developer comes in, and we've had this happen several times or at different times, they file an application, they want to get it on the books, but it's not complete. So we have 30 days to notify them if it is complete or not complete. And if it's not complete, what list of items that they need to provide to make it complete. So that triggers then, once it is a complete application, that is when those standards apply. And that is when the time starts for us to make sure that we get an approval out to them in 90 days. So that would be for our plan reviews, our site reviews, our plats and so forth, those bigger, larger type development reviews. However, and I think I might have missed it here earlier, there is a requirement that when we get just say a single building permit, remodel, a new construction for a home, that's not kind of a mass plan development site construction review process. We have then 7 days to review and approve it. And we have 3 days upon request for an inspection to get out there and inspect it. So the turnaround is really tightened up to make sure that it's, responsive, to the developer. But we have to, on the other side, we're gonna have to make sure that our processes are really clear, that they understand exactly what it takes to be a complete application. So then we don't miss the mark on our end, but yet they know that what they have to be expected to have in place before they even can file. So we're gonna be working on that, kind of developing that this year. Then the next section is our impact fees. So our impact fees, they added that there has to be, for any impact fee plan and ordinance that is established after June 30th of this year, then it has to be a public hearing from town council, and it has to have also a resolution adopted by plan commission. Now, our first round a few years ago, we did that through plan commission with a recommendation to then town council. But that public hearing notice wasn't an actual public hearing notice, and it wasn't a formal resolution that was established. So those are the two things that we need to have in place. Also, the advisory committee, they are requiring, instead of 40% from the real estate, the building, the development type industry, there are specific individuals, experts that has to be on that committee. A single family builder, a multifamily builder, and a realtor has to serve on that committee. We are right now in the process of our impact fee. Our steering committee actually meets that 40%. It actually is probably about maybe 60 to 70% within those industries. But we also, with the next round, luckily, we are kind of getting in there at the very tail end. We are anticipating to present the plan and the ordinance to the Plan Commission at the June Plan Commission, and then having it presented at the latest at the June Town Council. So that's going to beat that June 30th target date. But the individuals on that advisory committee have to receive recommendations from the statewide trade association. So that was a thing that they put into place to tighten things up. And then the other is, so for the 1300 series, which is our impact fee statute, there are 3 requirements that have been in place and will continue to be in place. The fact that there is a functional relationship between the components of the infrastructure, so that's road, park, water, sewer, bridges or whatnot. It has to have a functional relationship between the infrastructure and the impact zone. So that basically that impact zone is in need of that improvement. It also needs to, is required that the infrastructure type provides a uniform benefit throughout that impact zone. So any development that takes place within that impact zone is going to get an equal benefit, and they're going to be charged that fee equally throughout that zone for that improvement. And that all areas in the impact zone are contiguous. In our particular area, we only have one zone. So that kind of makes our plan-in process a little bit more streamlined. The things that they added is that one that doesn't really apply to us is that the impact zone is contiguous with the utility service. So we do not have a utility impact fee. But the other is that all areas are contiguous within a 5-mile area. So originally it was presented at 1 mile. So it meant that if a development, so let's just say Prairie Falls that just got their rezone approved, any fee charged to them had to be associated with a road improvement no more than 1 mile away from that subdivision. Now it's been expanded to 5 miles. Fortunately, our community is small enough that we, from end to end, for any development, we're about, I think, 6 miles from east to west at the most, but where that would fall, we're probably not going to have any issues. So, but anyway, so that's what that is all about. And then also planning and zoning. Okay. And I know that this is a bit, the last piece is to the point as far as them wanting us to really hone in on our unified development ordinance, our zoning ordinance, and then also our development standards there for the subdivision control ordinance. What they are asking, we have to hold a public hearing for Plan Commission before the end of the year. And at that public hearing, we have to discuss different elements here for our consideration and take a look at our standards. So that would be density requirements, its height, its floor area ratio for multifamily housing, asking us to consider eliminating regulations on requirements for garage sizes and placements, steeper roof pitch, minimum lot size, square footage, greater setbacks, off-street parking requirements, and those design standards that are kind of like those exterior material pieces to our development. And then also looking at reviewing those impact fee zones, consulting with the advisory committee for that, streamlining, shortening our permitting processes and timelines, trying to get that even 15 days less than what we do. Considering being open to tax abatements to enable some more high density developments. And then last is if the town to have land to encourage donation for vacant land for affordable housing development. So those are the things that we'll have to kind of, as we figure out what all we need to kind of talk about and work through. I don't know, I mean, it does have to be in a public hearing setting, but it might be something that we can do a workshop beforehand to really kind of talk things out a little bit more in detail. But we'll find out if that will be an option that we can do that. And then at the end of the year, we have to report any housing study that either locally has been conducted either by EDC or by us as the town, meeting minutes from that public hearing, and then a description of the decisions that came out of that meeting. We have to report by the end of the year. So I'm not going to go through the others that are there. I know that was quite a bit for you tonight. I will send out this Excel spreadsheet that, you know, if you want to go through your leisure. And again, we'll be doing our due diligence to connect and plug in and see exactly how all this is to be worked out and keep you guys informed and along the
I
Mm-hmm.
way.
think this is good practice after every legislative session, if there's anything that pertains to planning, to always do something like this. I don't think it'll probably, hopefully not be as long, but
Yes, yeah.
we just each, every spring, every late winter, every time that their session.
Yeah. Do this. Yeah. For a short
Maybe it's
session, they sure did hit us hard.
How to work. They're collecting data, so we'll see.
Yes, yeah. Yep. Anyone have any questions or? Good. Okay, well, I appreciate your time for this. Oh, sorry.
So, did some research, median household income for Madison County, Indiana was $62,600. That would be countywide. So if you were to project that we are 25% higher South Madison, that would probably put it into that 80,000 plus
Mhm.
range.
Yeah.
The median sale price of a home in the county, countywide, was $159,900 in 2025. That is 255% of the current median household income in the county. Significantly above anything reportable in that 80% or under, or even 100%. I'm not sure that the metrics are correct, because I have never seen a housing market, and I've been around for a few years, where a home price equaled median household income. I don't think any of us that have ever purchased a home have expected to buy a home that equaled our household income at that point in time. So if you would please, with the AIM people,
Yeah,
get an
we'll get to
understanding of the
that.
calculation and the metrics.
Yeah.
Because I'm not even sure a Section 8 housing unit can be built in compliance with that 80% threshold.
I wonder if it just means 80% of your income is going towards your mortgage or something within a given
That would
amount
be-
of time.
That would be a phenomenal clarification.
Yeah. So it could be.
We'll find that out.
Or people that fall within that range are purchasing them.
Sure.
Well, and the other thing is, if someone may understand, I believe Joe Buck provided us with a number of South Madison community students that are already on subsidized lunch programs.
Mhm.
That number is pretty significant. So we already have a lot of economic diversity in the community with regards to socioeconomic status.
But he didn't, I don't think they parsed out the 600 transfer in that number, so that might be, it's a little conflated.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Get some
Yeah, thank
clarification.
you.
Nicely done, that was a lot of work.
Yes, wonderful work.
I'm sure there's typos in there, I will review that, I
Well,
promise.
Any other questions? Tanner, Denise?
So did the FITAR go to the town council?
Withdrew.
We anticipate that they're going to withdraw, but it is scheduled tentatively for next Thursday's town council agenda. So we do need to put that on there because we had 90 days to be able to act upon the recommendation that was made by your board. So it's just gonna fall short of that May town council meeting. But yeah, communication is going to happen and
So he has to come, he has to present that then,
unless he would,
unless it's up there.
yeah, we're 99% sure he is going to withdraw. It's just that has to be done.
At hearing. Who is going to withdraw?
The petitioner, Mr. Guitar, he had come through and petitioned for a heavy industrial use.
The reclassification, 600,
Yep, you got
airport, commercial property.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Is
So,
that
yeah,
what
Rob has been very instrumental in that process, so he's really helped us along with that, so.
Anything else? Doc, Leo, no question?
Very interesting.
Thanks for coming. See you next month. Meeting adjourned.